Educators play a very big role in promoting children's social and emotional development and learning. The first thing that comes to mind is through the relationships that they develop with children that start from the very first encounter they have with families and children. And we know from the attachment literature on good practice in early childhood settings that the foundation for children's development and learning is having those warm, positive, mutually respectful attachment relationships with at least a few other adults. And obviously that's most important for children to have with their parents or carers, but it's just as important when they come into an early childhood education and care service that priority is given to helping that child form strong, positive relationships with adults. So, and starting off with one in particular, I think ideally some services have a primary caregiving system. Other services have found other ways to help children form that really strong relationship with an educator.
To know a child really well, to know a child in all of who they are, takes time. It takes being with children, and I think that's one of the great things about the Early Years Learning Framework, is that it really privileges and honours that time that we spend with children. So more and more for me, as I watch early childhood educators getting to know children, it's not about what you do necessarily, it's not about the activities you set up or the things you think that maybe children might like to do, or the train set or the Play-Doh or washing the babies, whatever it is. It's more about being with them in the things that they choose to do. And it is in those encounters that we have with children that we really can get to know them.
They're established through repeated, warm, responsive interactions usually with a consistent caregiver or a consistent group of caregivers. You know, we think about the consistent caregiver as the parent, but obviously in the area of early childhood education and care, the workers there can also be the consistent caregiver, and is also vital for providing that repeated experience of having an adult that cares about them, that's going to protect them, that's going to be interested in them, that thinks they're valuable enough to kind of keep an eye on, so that they can therefore set off from that space of security to explore and learn.
Children need intention and purpose. They need to have an understanding of what's going to happen to them when they walk into a door. So predictability. I think it's very important for children to have a primary carer in an early years setting. One person who is responsible for the care of that child throughout the time that they spend in the early childhood setting. Now that doesn't mean that person looks after them all the time. It means that person holds them in mind all the time and is aware of where they are and who they're with, and may take them to other people for care and activity and experience, but will say, I'm dropping you off and I'll pick you up in a bit. So the children have a really strong sense of being held in mind by an educator. So when children walk in the door in the morning, I think it's really useful for them to have the same person greeting them, and for that person to be saying things like, I've been waiting for you to come and I'm really glad you're here. And the children know that what's going to happen next and what's going to happen next. If that happens regularly for children, like every day, I don't mean twice a week, I mean like 3 or 4 or 5 times a week, the children can hold that notion in mind and start to put themselves into that space wholly and fully, because they are held and they understand that it's their space.
Children really benefit from being thought about really closely, not only by their parents but by childhood educators and by carers, and by that I mean grandparents and aunts and uncles and whoever. It's really important for children that someone is really trying to work out what's going on with them, and what we talk about really is being in tune with a child. And when you're in tune with a child, you'll be able to pick up things that they might not be saying. You'll get a sense of what's going on, and then you'll be able to act accordingly. Sometimes we'll get it wrong, but children really need to be knowing that their carers are thinking about them and keeping them in mind. And so one of the things that we see when you're in tune with a child is you mirror their facial expressions. So you've got a baby who's crying, and everybody will basically do the same thing, and they'll form a face that goes, "Oh, poor baby," and the baby can then see that you can see and understand how they're feeling, and this is what we talk about as being in tune. So the baby's crying and you've got this really sad face on, and you're comforting the baby, and eventually the two of you will calm down together, and that's a way that we help each other manage our feelings.
If you look at the life of a toddler or a baby or a 3 or 4 year old, you can see the ebbs and flows of emotion, and it's about the way that they interact with others, but also the way they understand themselves in a context. And educators who are tuned in to what children are feeling can offer children the support that they need in times when things are not going particularly well, but also join with them in the times when there's elation and great joy, and we can help children to understand what that looks like. It's an interesting thing to assist educators to feel confident to be with children in those emotional highs and lows, and to put some security around those, some safety around those feelings, so that children can feel them safely, understand what they feel like, so that as they progress through the rest of their lives, they know what it feels like.